This is Tales from the Pros, where business leaders and influencers share their stories of inspiration, struggles, and successes. And I'm your host, Michael Giorgio. Hey everyone, welcome to Tales from the Pros, and this is Michael Giorgio, your host and co-founder at Imaginovation. My wonderful guest with me here today is a veteran leader in sales and revenue growth, and has been named CEO of Uptime.com, a leader in website monitoring software. He brings more than 2 decades of sales and revenue leadership experience to Uptime, and he's been driving growth for numerous public and private software as a service companies, such as Chargify, Rackspace Cloud, and Inspired eLearning. Please welcome Mike Welsh. Mike, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. I really appreciate it. And, as we talked before, I've heard of Uptime before, even before, we kind of initially, our teams connected. And I think I've seen maybe some ads or saw it somewhere, maybe on LinkedIn. But, I think many people can find interest in what you're doing and the value that you're providing to the community and just to different audiences. So, yeah, excited to get into it. So before we kind of get into, just your experience and what you're doing now at Uptime, let's talk a little bit about your story, right? So, Tales from the Pros, as you know, is business storytelling podcast. And I want people to understand and get some background of kind of how you got to where you are today. I know you were recently named 7 or 8 months ago as the CEO of Uptime.com, and now you guys are really growing and thriving. So tell us kind of how you got here, and you don't have to start when you were born. You don't have to go that back.
Yeah, no, I'll skip forward a lot and save all your viewers some real boring moments. But I think I followed a relatively traditional progression from like sales guy to sales manager to sales leader, VP of sales, CRO, and then finally CEO. But that sounds a lot more contrived and obvious than it is. I think for me, I talk a lot, right? I try to limit it, and as I get older, I talk less and try to make my words more meaningful. But I'm also a verbal thinker, so I'll think out loud. So generally speaking, I'm obvious and humble and transparent about who I am, but I wasn't always that way. Certainly as a young kind of seller and aggressive and working more hours than everybody else, or, trying to be smarter than everybody else, or whatever advantage I could get to sell more and be super competitive and all those things. Kind of had to get shown that that's not really healthy. It's not beneficial. Ultimately, it's not a successful path to take in terms of sales. So as I learned that through my progression and got better and better at being transparent and humble and genuinely caring or allowing myself to care. I think I always cared, but I just kind of shelved it because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. Sales manager's got to be hard. Sales VP's got to be even harder, and not, director's got to be this. It's all right.
No worries.
All of these kind of expectations from media and movies and what you see, and just had to jettison all that. And it probably took me about 10 or 15 years to do it, and to get much more comfortable with how you sell, how you collaborate, how you lead, how you lead. And those types of things. So I could talk about my career and starting, with a very young Rackspace and Moso and the cloud stuff, and then my progression in technology. And I'm sure we'll probably poke in and out of that. But the truth is, it's been a growth curve and a spectrum on me becoming self-aware and understanding. Understanding what I really want, understanding what I really need. And then making the connection to others on what they really want, what they really need, and just bridging it. And I think that works whether you're in sales or kind of ultimate leadership as a CEO. It's no such thing as ultimate leadership, right? I got a boss. So it's it's the connectivity for me that I kind of got back to, and that's why I'm here, how I'm here anyway.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And, you know, I think some people, at least ones that I've spoken to, they underestimate what it really takes to be a CEO. I think CEOs and entrepreneurs, they're used interchangeably a lot of times. I hear about it, but not a lot of entrepreneurs make good CEOs.
Mm.
You know,
Okay.
so being a CEO is I just know this from experience. Being a co-founder of my company as well, and just the amount of pressure that you do have to make sure you're performing, that your team's performing, to make sure that you're that you're paying the bill, that you're paying the bills, you're making payroll, that you're maintaining and growing like a bottom line, having profit, and just the whole financial picture, and the financial aspect, operational aspect of it that you have to pay attention to. It's just a lot of moving pieces and parts, and that's the thing is, like, so for you, just over time, do you feel like going through Rackspace and all these other SaaS companies, they were just really all stepping stones to lead you to where you are today, right? And how did you get named as CEO? How did it happen? How was it? What was that kind of that story?
Yeah, I'll walk back to the beginning of the question and then end with the end. But yeah, as a CEO is the most terrifying role I've ever had, because there isn't any. All right, you just decide. You have to make the decisions, and it's lonely. It is, you're on an island. Like, every decision you make is impactful, and there are people's livelihoods are on the line. Their lives aren't, but their livelihoods are, which is probably number 2 in terms of everybody's kind of ladder of importance, right? So I think it's a hard job. It really is. And it's not so much about the thinking and everything else. It's just, you have to start and finish, right? And if you do it well, if I do it well, you get everybody involved, and everybody understands that there's no magic wand, and that from my perspective, it's got to be collaborative, and we all work on this together. There's no bullshit. It is, I'm not some type of magic wand guy where I can say, well, this is the right way, and this is the right way, and this is the right way. It's help me understand what the right way is going to be. And doing that with no ego and just straight humility is hard. It's really, really hard not to just sometimes say, forget it, we're doing this, because that's right. Oftentimes the wrong thing, but then sometimes it's vitally necessary. So anyway, so that's my view on the role as CEO. I never really wanted or needed to be CEO. It just progressed that way naturally. I don't know which came first, the capability to be CEO or the opportunity, but I imagine they got here pretty much the same time. Anyway, so back to how I got here and how I got to CEO. So I got a long history and a pretty extensive network that goes deep for a few decades, and that's just in the IT. I was in staffing before IT, and still got some vestiges of that, but it's pretty much the technology side. And I do some mentoring with kind of founder and CEO types that are trying to figure out, how do I do sales? When should I do sales? Should I hire a sales VP? Should I hire a sales rep? Should I hire an SDR? Like, should I keep selling? Like, trying to kind of walk through different sales structures and models. And I'm pretty good at conceptualizing that. One of my few strong talents. And so that's this kind of tail that I've been kind of trailing behind me for a while. Fast forward a little bit, I run into the managing director of the VC firm that owns Uptime and many, many other companies ranging in size from like 1 to hundreds, right? So, and I get him or he gets me on the phone. Basically, he escalated it because one of my sellers was a jerk, high pressure type of thing. And I get on this phone, it's this New York guy with an accent, and he's just kind of into me. And I mean, into me like poking at me, like, kind of operation or whatever. And we just got to where we were connecting and communicating, and I got him and he got me, and there was a synergy there. This was 4 years ago, I think. But this is a pretty singular guy. And like, he kept in touch all this time. I solved his problem, the immediate problem, and he just never went away. And then last year when I'd gone into Inspired eLearning to help them kind of fix and control sales. It was a little bit of a wild, wild west, but get all those things right in order to sell. We went through kind of some management presentations, like 30 or 40 of them, and then sold the company to J2 Global. So all this time I've been talking to him, and kind of getting towards the end there. It's like, well, what are you going to do afterwards? I don't know. I might take a break again, or semi-retire, or just not do anything until the next thing hits me in the face. And it's like, I need you to come and do this, man. We're ready. It's 100% year-over-year growth.
Nice.
We don't have any sales. We don't have any marketing. Don't get me wrong. We have all those things. They're not formalized. They're not commercialized. They're not structured and then monitored and then measured. And all of those things. As an entrepreneur, you understand that.
Right.
And as a CEO, you do too. You understand the need of getting these things in place. And anyway, so long story short, I exited the company in December and started here Jan 1. Didn't take a day off, just started immediately. And then we're rolling.
Awesome. Yeah, you're probably restructuring things, organizing it, and increasing accountability, and kind of just delegating everything accordingly. And it's that's very, very important. I know just from my experience and talking to numerous entrepreneurs and CEOs that are thriving, it really is important the way you structure the company. It's not just about having these ideas and even just about execution. It's about the efficiency in the organization, you know what I mean? Making sure that people are playing their roles, that you're delegating the right roles to the right people.
That's so right.
So many things.
Yeah. The framing of a thing, and I get excited talking about this because this turns back into the sales process, and then how you communicate, and like how you frame something and how people view something and how it gets framed, whether it's a sales interaction or the very existence of a certain type of title, or like, this is my focus. And once you start putting definition around a thing, then it grows an ecosystem of good and bad and everything else. But until you do, it's just this kind of fountain of chaos. And as soon as you start putting just some controls into place, then it starts developing a momentum that turns into like, okay, yeah, we just started looking at this, and all of a sudden we're all looking at this, and then things start moving in the right direction. But the framing of a thing I've told this story many times, but as a seller, like sales reps often get into problems where they're super nice and best friends and everything else through a whole, 5-minute or 5-month long process. And then they try to hard close them eventually because their boss makes them or whatever.
Right.
And the problem there isn't because you are now holding them accountable. It's because you never held them accountable before. It's much like raising a child. If they're accountable from step one and their expectations, you're going to hold them accountable all the way through. There's no problem demanding like, hey, we committed that we were going to execute today. I've got, half a dozen people here. Okay, Mike, calm down. I got it. And the expectations there, it's not pulling them out of the fantasy of the conversation you're having. I say fantasy literally. It's not like you're spinning an untruth, but
right.
You are crafting a relationship, you and I, and an expectation and everything else. And the second I violate that, everything is kind of off, and people have to re-examine everything. It's hard to recover from.
Yeah, you're so right. It's so true what you said. It's from the start, and I think that's where a lot of leaders make that mistake, where they don't set the expectations from the beginning. They don't have that solidified, that solid foundation. It's like building a home. You don't have that solid foundation. If you don't have that solid foundation and you continue to build on top of it, it's just going to crumble. So you have to have that same mentality with people. As making sure they understand their expectations, you're aligned with what they're going to be doing for you, for the company, and that you are aligned culturally and with the vision, and all that's very important, is really creating that foundation, having those expectations from the beginning. So true. And I mean, we've all made those mistakes. Sometimes and that goes the same thing with customers too, is setting those expectations, having that foundation from the get-go, from the beginning. And it's going to just really set the whole journey for, just making it all seamless.
Yeah.
It's
terrifying for me to say no to a customer. I don't, it's such a counter thing. But I just had to learn it over time. It's just, now we can't do that. And just dive into it instead of trying to, because then nothing will ruin a relationship faster than starting something with good intentions and then, ending in a terrible place where, there's a much deeper, more negative impact than if everybody just walked away from the beginning. So.
Yeah, no, it's true. And talking about Uptime, Mike, I just from the research I've done about you guys and the company, and for you guys being one of the leaders in your market, in your industry, there's a lot of other companies that are trying to get there. And I know we're all growing. We're all of us are trying to progress. It's all about progression. We're always trying to improve and baby steps, always trying to improve a little bit at a time. At least that should be the goal. But for you and Uptime and you scaling and growing the company in general, like what does it really take in your experience to grow and scale a company like Uptime? What does it really take? And I know you did mention a few things, obviously, with people and allocating the right roles to the right people. Obviously, that's a part of it. But, specifically for a SaaS business, because it is different than like a B2B service business. Yeah, the foundations of business are the same, but there are differences, of course.
Yeah.
So if you can talk about those a little bit.
Look, I think it's hard to define, and everybody's got their own,
of course,
debt to sort, solve, get rid of, pay off, whatever. The more people in this space, the better. First of all, because you mentioned at the outset, people who just don't even have experience with, like, for what people in the tech space would be like, yeah, of course. But I literally dealt with a prospect who's now a customer here just a few months ago, who owns all of let me define this in a way that doesn't get me in trouble. They're a holding company and they have multiple name brands, conservative, kind of been around for 80 years types of things that now all have web properties associated with them, but no monitoring on any of them. Like they just like, how do you find out something's down? Well, somebody notices it, tells us. Like that type of setup is there, and there has to be some awareness. There has to be some pressure on companies like Uptime or others in this space to grow, to improve. There's also a benefit to seeing what somebody else is doing that's innovative and interesting and cool, or we thought about doing that, we've decided not to. Good. They go fill that niche and we'll keep working on ours. I think with Uptime specifically, I am super lucky in that there's been a bunch of unicorns that work at this company, man. I mean, a bunch of
Awesome.
really smart, brilliant people that operate. I mean, look, we've been around without a CEO for 6 years. And that's,
Wow.
I'm not here because, oh my goodness, we can't manage this. I'm here because like somebody's got to be dealing with all these types of CEO kind of decisions, like branding, or what product direction are we going to go to? Like, what big terms do we make? Those types of things. At some point, you just need a decider. But these unicorns have just been killing it, and they've been operating from a technical purist point of view that makes this entire kind of feature and product like just super elegant, like very pristine and fresh and uncluttered. And one of the things you'll notice if somebody goes this deep, you look around the space, is there's lots of companies that try to do everything for everybody, and lots of noise and clutter, and you can't figure out what pieces of a thing are a thing. And look, some of these are giant companies that are way bigger than we are. So I'm not denigrating them at all. And I imagine at scale at that size, you start developing a pretty long tail of products. But the nice thing about us is we just go so very, very deep on like a much smaller, more narrow kind of subset of core functionality, to where it's like I get in fights with our CTOs and architects all the time, because they're like, no, not putting that in the UI. And it's like, I really shouldn't be saying that to the CEO, but I love the fact that they're saying that to the CEO. And like, you have this whole dynamic because they know what they're doing, and way more than I ever will. So I think what really floats my boat about the opportunity here is they've done such a great job of having a really elegant, really usable technology with the core kind of functionality people need. But we get one of our most common requests is we want to change the sensitivity here. Like, we want to be able to ping our website, in milliseconds, or every second, or every 10 seconds, or every X amount of time, and we won't do it. We can, but we know that they'll get false positives, and it won't be the right experience for them. And whatever they're trying to do, they're trying to use it incorrectly, and we're not going to do that with our product. But you can look across the landscape and see a bunch of our competitors who absolutely do like that. And then those prospects come back to us because they're like, I can't keep getting all these false positives. I can't keep getting alerts when we're not down. The way you guys are recommending this stuff gets set up is the right way. Yeah, we're sorry. But like that type of thinking on how we've set up everything about uptime is pervasive on our company, from support all the way to just a sysadmin who's working on SOC and things like that. Like, everybody's just so thorough, so smart. Just really blessed to be here.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It seems like you guys have really niched out. You're in a particular space, and it also seems like you have those unicorn employees, but they're also very passionate. They care about the product. They care about the value that they're providing to the customer. That's so important. You hear this all the time with just employees being at different companies, and they're just not all there emotionally. They don't, it's like they just don't believe in what they're marketing or selling or what they're building. Yeah. And I think that does hurt the company on a branding perspective. It hurts the culture, just many different levels. And that's very important to make sure that not just SaaS companies, but all companies have people that really, really, truly do care, so make sure you hire slowly, hire good people.
That's the key, right? I hate the CEO speak of, well, what keeps me up at night is, but that does concern me, because at scale, it has to break down. You lose some sense of connection. And I'm sure my sister's got a PhD in psychology and sociology, and she's super smart and all these things. She could probably tell me exactly what the number is where kind of tribes break down and start to splinter, and where you lose some. I don't know where exactly it is, but I know it's going to happen someday. I just want to keep it out as far as I possibly can, because then it sure is nice to be with really motivated, really smart people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, talking more about just SaaS companies in general, and obviously with your immense experience, when a startup, when they're in, a SaaS startup, when they're trying to kind of figure out their monetization plan and all that, right? And I know there's so many different plans that there's so many different strategies that you can go about, like freemium or paid subscription or microtransaction. There's so many different things that you can do. But in your experience, do you think a lot of these SaaS startups are making mistakes with the way they're monetizing their products? You think that some of them are just monetizing too early? they should probably build a free community base first and then monetize that? Or, what's kind of some of the, just the problems and challenges, not with just monetization, but even other aspects of SaaS companies? Like, what are some of the problems that you've seen them face, and just how do they overcome them?
I think I would never call myself an expert on this, but I have this debate pretty regularly in terms of because first of all, everybody wants to go up to enterprise. Everybody wants to go upstream to enterprise all the time, whether you're SaaS or whatever the basis is. And then everybody wants a flywheel. Everybody wants to have the free accounts where you look at all the people that we're going to generate, and some of those are going to grow, right? And
right.
I think that the end of the day, like, everybody wants everything, and recency bias is really real, and it's really dangerous in terms of what you know and what you don't know. So the way I manage it and think about it and have tried to keep aligned with is to try to stay within my lane. Like there are things that are kind of integral and part of every company that's out there, whether it's a day old or 100 years old. And you got to be realistic about what you're doing. I mean, you got to design to the customers that your product really resonates with, and developing a flywheel for, I don't know, inner tubes. Are you going to get a flywheel out of that, really? And one that will grow, and one that will like meet the needs, and like having a realistic kind of mentality on what you will build. Like, for instance, Rackspace and going open cloud and open source and doing these things. Like, we made an active decision in leadership there. Like, we can't compete with AWS. We don't have the money. Like, at first we weren't too worried about them, and then like all of a sudden they just annihilated everybody in the cloud space. Right?
Yeah, AWS. Yeah.
It's just it happened. We were Rackspace Cloud. We thought that we'd get this stuff sorted, and then it was us and them, and then we were very much like not there. But some of the cool things that we did was like open cloud, open source, and we allowed other people to come in here and kind of publicize the cloud, and people could build their own clouds, and it did some really amazing stuff, not the least of which was allowed us to try to keep pace developmentally with AWS. Maybe we had 40, 50, 60 developers, but I think Amazon probably had at least 10x that, and there's no way we
probably
would ever
thousands.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I like that. That's developing like maybe not the traditional sense of a flywheel, but that's like there's something there. There's a there. Like, you have a product that's in line with that, and so you can develop it. But developing a flywheel when there isn't one is, why would you? So I like the concept of a flywheel and developing a community. And I think intellectually it appeals to me. I see lots of value in it. But there is absolutely no doubt that the freemium and very inexpensive kind of baseline users create a lot of work. Maybe not right away, but they eventually do. And develop some real cantankerousness in terms of your product, because some of those folks are some of the most judgmental, quick with their kind of judgment of you as a competitor or a provider or vendor or whatever, and sometimes it's just so hollow. So it's just be careful what you ask for. I'm personally like I've got to base it on fit. I don't think Uptime is great in that space. I think we're too deep. I think it's the functionality that's in our UI and our control panel is not going to be used by somebody who wants just an up-down test on their basic internal site. You know what I mean? Like they just, how am I ever going to compete with free accounts on that? Because my marketing's not developed towards it. It's not like the whole process and consumption is not built that way. Because
I know what you're saying.
I got millions of dollars invested into like these products going this deep. I have a dog that's
it's okay.
having a nightmare.
Very cute.
Sure.
I'm a dog lover. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Yeah, she
Everyone
keeps
loves dogs.
biting over there. Anyway, probably time for me to stop talking in any case. But so it's like for our product, it doesn't make sense. It could, and maybe I'm a dummy and looking at it wrong. But it's just the stuff we have and the capability that's under our hood. It's just not going to be meaningful for someone who just wants to drive to the grocery store and back. Like it's just.
Did you before you were CEO, was the pricing model different at Uptime than it is now, where you are, you're leading the company? Has it kind of changed? Is the audience the same too? The customer?
That's funny you asked that. It's some work in progress stuff that's going on right now.
Okay.
But look, I'll frame it this way. Like, we have dozens of the largest companies on the planet are customers of ours. And a lot of them don't consume Uptime in that traditional kind of SaaS kind of model. So they have pushed us in a lot of ways, technology-wise, feature-wise, outlook-wise. Like, they've really helped us. We have really nice partnerships with some very large companies that are aware of our size and the contribution they're making, and just somehow we're a good fit for that type of collaboration. But they've pushed us on creating new pricing paradigms, and like, we don't want to buy in a SaaS. We're enterprise. We're 5 largest companies on the planet. We're not buying SaaS. Like, we're not going to buy, this bundle from you. Here's what
we can build it ourselves. We can build it ourselves.
Yeah. And by the way, here's our paper. Go sign it. And, you have those types of things. And it's like, okay, great. So, like, we'll change and we'll accommodate different pricing over time. I don't think that we'll go away from SaaS. But I do think that we'll have a more customizable SaaS kind of hybrid solution. And the trick is, okay, we just don't want to go to just a straight SKU, like, hey, guess what? Now, all of a sudden, we're acting like we're, I don't know, ABC gigantic company. We don't want to do that, because then that gets away from who we are. But I think what we can do is say, hey, if you want to buy a preset package and not worry about how you're going to go configure all this, great. If you want to configure, then come follow this channel, and you can both walk down the tunnels that you choose. And then it becomes how do you want to consume us, rather than you're small, somehow not valuable, you're small, medium, or you're large. Because I think the new age of technology and SaaS is not going to be less valuable, middle value, really valuable. It's going to be, how do you need to consume us, and then how can we provide that consumption to you in a model that scales, that scales on either side. So I'm not ever going to come up with the answers to those things, but hopefully I can start getting a little close to them.
Yeah, but at least Mike, it seems like you're listening to your customers, and they're pretty much a part of the changes that you're making to anything in the company. You're listening to your customers, you're getting feedback on pricing or the way you're building and implementing, improving, optimizing the system. And that's important. You have to be customer focused and customer centric, and you'd be surprised. A lot of companies don't do that. They're kind of stick to what they believe is right for their company, instead of the other way around, where they're listening externally to their customers and saying, guys, this is what your platform needs. I mean, yeah, if one or two say it, okay. I mean, maybe you have to get, more people saying it just to kind of validate it. But in essence, it's good that you're listening to your customers, and I mean, that's going to help you to grow, and, all this stuff. So
that's a tough needle to thread. I mean, of course the customers opinion is job one, and all of those things. But also the number of people I've talked to in the past 2 months who could build our entire platform over the weekend is more than you ever want to know. Because sometimes they don't know what they think they know, and like threading that balance and being strong and calm and reasonable about the places that you won't or can't bend, while at the same time having a culture of, please tell us how to improve. What else can we do?
Right.
Yes, there's a real schizophrenia that happens there. But I think that if I'm really calling out one thing aside from the technology at Uptime that is amazing, is the culture of that. It's like I walked into it. I wish I could take credit for it. But there's like, some of our largest customers are just straight to our chief architects and CTOs and CPOs. And there's and they know when not to abuse it and don't generally. But sometimes they're like, hey, this is an architect problem. Please escalate it. Thanks for your help. But let's get one of these other guys on. I mean, it's just real. It's very, very real.
Just talking about Uptime itself, like the value that you guys are giving to your customers, when it comes to monitoring a website and the problems that you encounter, I'm sure I can't even imagine, the amount of sites that go down and companies probably don't even realize it. Or they don't get any notifications, nothing, it's probably crazy, but it just, what are things that you are noticing, Mike, or what you've noticed with just the problems that a lot of websites do have on a performance perspective? Any statistics, any data? I mean, what kind of data did you find lately that's been kind of, it can just be surprising or?
Well, I don't know. You've probably got some salty folks that are like, yeah, I've known that for 15 years. Thanks, pal. But I think one thing that your subscribers or the folks listening might be interested in is, like, we talked about the freemium model. We talked about like the flywheel, and there are some very good companies out there who are very good at basic checks, up and down, get it for free. If you want to do anything advanced from that, then you have to pay.
Right.
And some of them are still, they're faking it till they can make it on the deep end of that. Right. So there's some of that stuff out there, but a lot of people start monitoring by saying, is my site up or is my site down? And that's just, there's some super basic stuff there that just
very basic
can do.
It is.
Is my certificate expiring? It's up and down. There's 5-10 basic checks in there. Some companies will charge you for every one of those individually. Some charge you for, one fee for all of them, or some don't charge you, and you can use a couple. Right. That's a third of the kind of stool in terms of monitoring. So yeah, is my site, is my page, is my this, is my that, is it up? That's great. But what about all the elements that are inside a page? Is your buy now button working? Is your login now button working?
That's what I'm talking about. Deeper, like much deeper than, I mean, performance, like how is your page actually doing?
Absolutely. Like people are like, hey, great, my site's been up. It hasn't been down for 2.5 years, but nobody can buy anything.
No. Yeah.
And the buy stuff is meaningful, and it's obviously the most important piece of it, but it's not that important if somebody never even gets to it. And if someone's like, add this to my cart, but it doesn't add something to your cart, or it adds the wrong thing, or it you know what I mean? So like you've got all these different elements and CTAs or let's call them buttons. I'm not sure exactly who else is.
All the call to actions, all the contact us, the inquiries, everything.
Yeah, so you go click on a site for a thing, and you want to know that that's up, and that's the synthetic and just the basic kind of transactional, like this transaction working. Yes, it is. That's still only another third, because you still got an additional piece, and this is where you can get really deep and it gets really hard, is the real user monitoring, or RUM, which is, where is this person going and what's the progression through this page? Like, okay, yeah, I see that my transaction check's working and my up down's working. That's great, but they're timing out, like, or they're not getting to X, or like if their load time for these elements, they have to sit and wait for X. And so then all of a sudden the user experience becomes the third piece.
So true.
Yeah, like Google Analytics. I mean, so then now you have a holistic picture
Right.
of everything that's happening there. And if it seems like overkill, trust me, your competitors are doing it. And not only are they doing it, but they're getting pretty damn exotic about it. There's stuff that I will never know that we can do. I mean, it gets so deep that it's just silly. But they're doing it. And then they're dissecting and pulling apart all of the CSS and code to find out where the errors are. And more and more, they're looking at companies like Uptime and some of the other good deep ones out there to help them kind of decompose what the problem was and do some real, postmortem on errors or some dissection in terms of figuring out why is this breaking. Like there's a much deeper collaboration coming in the next 5 years from companies like us than has been around for the last 5.
That's exciting, and oh man, I can completely resonate with everything that you're saying, especially what we've dealt with at our company on just the website perspective and just all the apps and things like that. There's, because when it comes with a website, right, you're going to have integrations like HubSpot, right? And we have like HubSpot integrations. Sometimes you don't know if that's working. One time we caught an issue. We tested everything. We thought it was working. One of our workflows, one of the workflow integrations between our site and HubSpot, and one of the triggers was not working, which was stopping them from receiving one notification, and that hurt our sales.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
understanding that whole performance much deeper, forget, if it's up or down. I mean, yeah, that's like very, very basic, but in terms of the user experience perspective, how they're engaging on a page, and where they're clicking, kind of like that heat map type of orientation,
absolutely.
That's where it gets very powerful. And I think a lot of companies really need to tune in and understand that. And when they're ready, when they're at that point in time when they really need it, I'm sure some websites don't need heavy, performance checking, and I think a lot of them do. But yeah, it's crazy.
I spoke with a customer a few weeks ago, and they always have Uptime up. Like they never, ever don't have Uptime up. If I can throw in a whole bunch of negatives into one statement. But they even use us in lieu of like Google Analytics because they don't always have that up. But they can then go into real user monitoring. They can see that type of blending is just coming fast and furious. It's not going anywhere. The predictive analytics, being able to tell you what might break, what's looking like, hey, this is something we've seen before with this, or with something similar, and you should check this. It's got a yellow in terms of your predictive health here. Like things like this we're furiously researching and working on in the background right now. If companies aren't working in these areas, then or already offering stuff in these areas, they're not going to be able to compete. So it's the deeper and deeper and deeper always.
And where do you think the future is going when it comes to just overall performance? Even as deep as you want to get about user experience, performance. It could be on a design, or it could be on a technical back end perspective. Where do you think it's kind of headed? Just with all the technologies coming out and all this, AI and just there's lots of changes. I think even just the way users and customers are behaving and performing online, the way decisions that they're making, the way they're interacting with different platforms. It's just like a lot of changes,
Yeah, I wish I knew the answers to those. I mean, the truth is I don't. I feel woefully underqualified to offer an opinion there. But I know that being able to collaborate with companies like yours or others where it's like we can't figure out what's wrong. We're getting this from you guys, but we don't see this on this, and being able to collaborate. So human touch, I don't think goes away. And in fact, I think invested in correctly, certainly Uptime has chosen to go all human all the time.
That's powerful.
It's
very powerful.
It's too complex. It's just too complex. And I would love to be able to service it by AI and everything else. But maybe 20 years from now, Like AI is real. Maybe it's even real now. I don't know. But I know that people talk about machine learning and AI. It's either marketing speak or people
Lots of
just
buzzwords.
nod judiciously and hope that nobody asks them for an opinion.
Yeah.
I know that it's real. I know that there are facets of it that are good. And believe me, I've talked to some of our senior devs about, okay, how do we AI? Like, and everybody's got opinions on it, right? But I think aside from the predictive pieces and being very smart and conservative about what you're going to predict, it's not there yet. It's certainly not for what we're doing. And it's just, there's no machine that can look at something and just intuit or grok, yeah, listen, I always have problems with this. Like, it's the transaction recorder that's working with this browser because I've experienced, like, it's probably this. Like, it's a whole slew of things that AI can't do or won't be able to do for at least the foreseeable future.
Quite some time that a human can do. Yeah, I mean, AI can be powerful for sure in different aspects, but the human touch, that human element with technology, combining it, I think is very powerful because, you know, I'm sure with you and your team that's reviewing and monitoring different websites, they're able to catch things on a, like we talked about, user experience, right? How a user is actually going through the, you know, each page, where they drop off, what's the bounce rate?
Yeah.
You know, where are they bouncing? How are they bouncing? You know what I mean? It's good. It's good for companies to understand the user behavior on their applications, on their, you know, on their websites. I think that is very, very powerful. I know from experience, you know, we analyze that on the tools that we use, and understanding the user behaviors is incredibly powerful because it just gives you more data and you can adapt your marketing and sales strategies.
Yeah, and it's not linear. It's not often. It's not predictable.
It's not,
why aren't we invested all this in this? Like, why aren't people like why aren't they looking at it more? And it's like, because they don't like it. Yeah, well, whatever. But yeah, that's true. Where a machine would make judgments and people can't. But we have customers that have 600-700 site reliability engineers that have accounts and usership with us. Like, they're all managing different things globally, all have different requirements, but there's a consistency from talking to a person because we know who X company is, Y company is, Z company. But a machine trying to diagnose and solve for them just turns into a frustrating experience for them, at least so far.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and that's if there was AI, that's if it's even accurate. You know what I mean? Is it accurate what it's telling you? And I'm not saying that humans are always accurate, no, but is it, you know, companies will invest all this time and money and resources into machine learning and AI even. And like I said, in some ways, it's very, very, very powerful. I've used systems that have AI and it is powerful, but it just depends. I think with your area, you need that human element. I think that's a vital component.
Yeah, and look, until they can successfully build a kind of call computer system that will allow me to talk to my insurance agent or give me the information I need after I get into a wreck without talking to an agent, like that's going to be my barometer. I mean, it's the rest of it's too complex.
So I think, you know, I think the audience could definitely take away from this, Mike, is that I've dealt with people that think on both sides of the spectrum, just human, you know, no tech. And I'm sure you've dealt with people not very innovative. Yeah. And then you get ones on the other side that are, it's just tech. It's kind of like just automation, AI and you know, and funnels and tools and all this stuff and software. That's great. But I think it's that balance, having both of them, you know, and
why not both?
Why not both? You know,
this thing that we have up here is
very powerful,
stunningly amazingly awesome.
You're so right. I love it. You're so right. But yeah, so last thing I have for you, Mike, and I ask everyone this on every interview. When it comes to storytelling, right, and just you telling us your story and even your, you know, your expertise and all the knowledge that you have, sharing all that with us. how would you define your story in one word? And it could be life, career, anything. But how would you just define Mike's story in one word?
Can I have a hyphen?
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, you do that.
I just call it self-awareness.
Nice, love it. One of my favorites.
I could expand, but I think that's the best one that I could come up with fast. That's
great, man. I appreciate it. This has been wonderful, Mike. I very thankful for having you here, and I think you've shared and poured a lot of knowledge, and a lot of people can learn from this. And whether they're tech or not doesn't matter. I think there's a lot of value here, and I really appreciate your time and everything that you've shared with us today. So thank you so much. So tell us, where can everyone find you, and tell us the Uptime site, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're uptime.com. It's pretty memorable. That's UPTIME.com.
No more complicated than that.
Yeah, don't go to any other Uptime that's out there. Just uptime.com. You'll find us. You'll see the real deal. I'm Mike Welsh, the CEO. You can reach out to me directly if you want. You can figure out my email address. But otherwise, if you're interested in monitoring, you want to talk to someone, you want to leave some feedback, I'd love to hear it. Or even if you just want to chat, like I mentioned at the outset, always interested in investing and taking care of my network. So don't be strangers.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm very grateful. I say that many times because I really am. I've tried to have a lot of gratitude. So thank you so much for just being on the show, man. And I appreciate you.
Yeah, this is my pleasure. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for listening, watching. And this is your host, Michael Giorgio from Tales from the Pros. And until next time, thanks guys. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow our social media. There are links somewhere around here, but we really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the support, and I'm going to be giving you awesome content continuously, and we look forward to seeing you soon.